Ferry Montter and the overpriced boarding school. It was a dark and stormy night in the town of nowhere in particular, which was known for having absolutely nothing interesting except a suspiciously high number of discount carpet stores. The Monter family was as normal as a family could be, except for the fact that they were raising a child who could make things explode just by sneezing too hard or thinking about math for too long. His name? Ferry Monter. Ferry had always felt a little off, not just because he was forced to sleep in a closet which was originally meant for a vacuum cleaner and still contained a vacuum cleaner named Suckington III, but also because strange things happened around him, like the time he accidentally turned his cousin's hair into a bowl of spaghetti, or when he somehow summoned a thunderstorm inside the living room because his aunt wouldn't let him watch cartoons, or the incident with the talking hamster, which no one in the family dared to speak about. Everything changed on his 11th birthday when a 7-foot-tall man in a trench coat that smelled like expired cheese and regret knocked on his door. "Oi! You Ferry Monter?" the man grumbled, holding a giant envelope made out of recycled pizza boxes. A pigeon was stuck to it, looking deeply ashamed. Maybe, Ferry replied, trying to decide whether he should run, scream, or ask this strange man why he smelled like a dumpster behind a fish market. "Name's Haggard. I work for Foggwarts, the finest magical institution money can buy. Literally, it's very expensive. You're a wizard, Ferry." Ferry blinked. "I'm a what?" "A wizard, and you've been accepted to Foggwarts School of Highly Questionable Magic." Haggard beamed, handing over the greasy envelope. Ferry opened it cautiously. Inside was a letter listing all the things he needed for school, including one cauldron, non-explosive preferably, one set of robes, enchanted to make you look slightly richer than you are, a wand, not from the clearance bin unless you wanted to double as a back scratcher, a toad, optional, but only losers bring one. Seriously, don't be that guy. A book titled Magic for Beginners and People Who Probably Shouldn't Be Trusted with It. A backup book titled How to Apologize After You Accidentally Turn Someone into a Llama. "Wow, this sounds amazing," Ferry grinned. "But wait, how do I get all this stuff?" Haggard laughed a little too loudly, causing a nearby mailbox to tip over from sheer force. "Ah, my boy, that's the best part. We're going shopping!" A truly unnecessary shopping spree. The next thing Ferry knew, he was being shoved into what looked like an abandoned laundromat. Haggard smacked a rusty washing machine twice, muttered something that sounded like "Open Sesame" or whatever, and suddenly the whole place shook as a secret passageway appeared behind a row of broken drawers. "Welcome to Diagon Alley," Haggard announced proudly. Ferry looked around. The alley was filled with shops selling everything from enchanted socks that screamed when wet to potions labeled "probably not poison." A man in a trench coat whispered, "Hey kid, wanna buy a cursed spoon?" While another store advertised, "Buy one wand, get a second wand that works half the time for free." "Right then! First stop, wand shop," Haggard declared, leading Ferry into a tiny, dimly lit store called Ollivanders and Questionable Wands. An elderly man with one eye twitching violently emerged from behind the counter. "Ah, another young wizard. Let's see." He handed Ferry a wand. Ferry waved it, and the store's ceiling immediately caught fire. Not that one. The old man tossed it out the window, where it exploded. After several more failed attempts, including a wand that summoned an army of angry geese, Ferry finally found one that simply let out a small meep sound when waved. "Ah, perfect!" Ollivander grinned. "That'll be 12 million gold coins." "What?" Ferry gasped. "Relax, kid. Foggwarts covers it," Haggard said, tossing a sack of money onto the counter. "Well, sort of. They'll just add it to your student debt." "Oh, great," And so, after nearly setting the alley on fire, purchasing robes that smelled like mothballs, and accidentally acquiring a sentient toad that insulted everyone who walked past, Ferry Monter was finally ready for his magical education. Transportation troublesy. All right, Ferry, time to get you to Foggwarts, Haggard announced, leading him down a suspicious alleyway covered in old posters advertising wands for hire, no questions asked. So, how do we get there? Train? Flying car? Giant owl? Ferry asked. Haggard chuckled. Nope, we're taking the flimsy flu network, cheapest way to travel. He dragged Ferry into what looked like a chimney showroom. A shady man with a mustache that looked like it was glued on greeted them. Welcome to Barry's Discount Portals. Step into the fireplace, throw this powder in, and shout, Foggwarts! The man explained, handing Ferry a small bag labeled definitely not toxic. Ferry hesitated. Are you sure this is safe? Haggard slapped him on the back. Of course. Mostly. Now. In ya go. Ferry stepped into the fireplace, threw the powder, and shouted, Foggwarts! With a whoosh, he was sucked into a swirling tunnel of green flames. Unfortunately, he sneezed mid-transit, accidentally shouting, Frogwarts! A moment later, he landed face first in a swamp. A group of extremely confused frogs wearing tiny wizard hats stared at him. Oh, great! Ferry groaned. This is going to be a long year. Just then, a frog with a monocle and a disturbingly deep voice croaked, Welcome, young tadpole, to the prestigious Foggwarts School of Amphibian Wizardry. Prepare yourself for the ribbit ritual. Ferry sighed, I really need a refund on this education. Ferry Montter and the unexpected detour. Ferry Montter, still dripping wet from his brief and traumatic enrollment at Foggwarts, blinked as he found himself standing in the middle of a grand Gothic-style hallway. Tall candlelit chandeliers hovered above, floating like they had no regard for gravity or fire safety regulations. Enchanted portraits lined the walls, most of them depicting very old and very grumpy wizards who seemed deeply disappointed in him already. Oi! You there! Barked a voice from behind him. Ferry turned around and came face to face with a tall, thin man wearing a robe that looked like it hadn't been washed since the Dark Ages. His hair was so greasy that Ferry briefly considered bottling it and selling it as an industrial lubricant. You must be the new student, the man sneered. My name is Professor Snob, and I teach potions, or as I like to call it, the art of watching first years suffer. Nice to meet you, Ferry mumbled, not sure whether he should bow, run, or hand over his lunch money. Silence! Snob snapped. Follow me. It's time for your initiation into Foggwarts. You didn't think we'd let just anyone into this school without a test, did you? He turned on his heel and stalked away, leaving Ferry no choice but to follow. The initiation trials. Ferry soon found himself in the middle of a massive stone chamber. A group of students, all wearing tattered robes and looking deeply traumatized, stood in a nervous circle around a giant wooden crate labeled, Do Not Open, Seriously, Bad Idea. A tiny old wizard with glasses the size of dinner plates hobbled forward. Ah, our newest victim, a student. Welcome, young Monter. I am Professor Bumbledore, headmaster of Foggwarts, part-time beekeeper, and full-time collector of mysterious objects I don't understand. Before you can officially begin your studies, you must pass the initiation trials. What kind of trials? Ferry asked nervously. Bumbledore chuckled. Oh, nothing too difficult. You merely need to survive complete 3 simple challenges. And if you fail, well, let's just say we have a very efficient paperwork system for notifying next of kin. Ferry gulped. Trial 1. The Riddle of Doom. A hunched, beady-eyed goblin stepped forward and unrolled an ancient scroll. Answer this riddle correctly, and you may proceed. Fail, and you must face the consequences. Ferry shifted nervously. What kind of consequences? Don't ask questions you don't want answers to, the goblin whispered ominously. Then he cleared his throat. Here is your riddle. What has keys but opens no locks, has strings but no ties, and is played by pressing buttons? Ferry furrowed his brow. Uh, a keyboard. The goblin blinked. Well, yes, that was correct. Wait, seriously. That was it? Oh, don't sound so surprised. It took Bumbledalf 3 weeks to solve that one. I thought it was a cabbage! Bumbledalf shouted from the back. The goblin sighed and waved Ferry forward. Fine, you pass. Move along. Trial 2. The Staircase of Infinite Frustration. Ferry's next challenge was to navigate Foggwarts' infamous moving staircases. The problem? They had a sense of humor. And by humor, Ferry meant they actively tried to ruin your life. All you have to do is get to the top floor, Snarp said with a smirk. Ferry took a deep breath and stepped onto the first step. Instantly, the staircase rumbled and twisted, sending him sideways, upside down, and somehow into a completely different part of the castle. A ghost floated by, sipping tea. Oh, stuck on the stairs, are you? Happens to the best of us. Took me 400 years to get off them. Hope you packed a lunch. Ferry groaned. Oh, come on. How do I beat this? You don't, the ghost chuckled. You just accept your fate and become part of the decor. Determined, Ferry thought back to all the weird things that had happened to him before. If I can survive Frogwarts, I can survive this. He took out his wand and pointed it at the stairs. All right, listen up, you overgrown escalator. I've had enough of your nonsense. The staircase shuddered. Take me where I need to go, or so help me, I'll tell the ministry you have termites. The staircase made a low groaning noise, and then, surprisingly, carried him all the way to the top floor. Huh, well, that was easy. Trial 3. The Mysterious Creature in the Dungeons. For the final challenge, Ferry was led into the dark, damp dungeons beneath Foggwarts. A metal door creaked open, revealing something. A pair of glowing eyes stared at him from the shadows. A deep growl echoed through the chamber. Bumbledalf whispered, Your final task is to defeat the legendary beast of Foggwarts. It has terrorized the school for centuries. Many have faced it, none have returned. Wait, Ferry frowned. Then how do you know it's still down here? Bumbledalf blinked. Oh, good question. Never thought about that. Before Ferry could protest, the door slammed shut behind him. The creature stepped forward. Its face emerged from the darkness. It was a puppy? A small, fluffy golden retriever pup wagged its tail and let out an excited bark. Ferry stared. This is the legendary beast of Foggwarts? Raw! The puppy yipped adorably. Ferry bent down and scratched its ears. Who's a good boy? You are! Yes, you are! The puppy rolled onto its back, demanding belly rubs. The dungeon door creaked open again, and Bumbledalf peered inside. Oh dear! He appears to have tamed the beast. We haven't seen this happen before. What does this mean? Snarp sighed. It means we have to let him enroll. Bumbledalf gasped. He's in! The entire room erupted into applause. Confetti rained from the ceiling, and a small goblin choir appeared from nowhere, singing, Congratulations, you didn't die. Ferry Montter had officially passed the initiation trials, and, more importantly, he now had a puppy. Ferry Montter and the completely normal school transportation method. After somehow surviving the absurd initiation trials, Ferry Montter was finally ready to begin his education at Foggwarts. But first, he had to get there. All right, kid, said Haggard, the half-giant groundskeeper, as he led Ferry outside. Normally, first years take the train, but we thought we'd spice things up for you. Ferry frowned. Spice things up? How? Haggard grinned and pointed at a suspiciously glowing carriage with no horses. This here's your ride. Ferry took a step closer and immediately regretted it. The carriage appeared to be made entirely out of questionable materials. Half wood, half what looked like old broomsticks duct taped together. It also hovered slightly above the ground and made an unsettling humming noise, like it was either powered by dark magic or just waiting to explode. Uh, is this safe? Ferry asked, eyeing the flickering neon sign on the side that read, "Definitely not cursed" in blinking letters. "Safe as anything at Foggwarts," Haggard declared proudly before slapping the carriage's side. It responded by violently shaking and briefly catching fire. A small goblin dressed like an old school chauffeur appeared out of nowhere, holding a clipboard. "All right, Monter, just sign here, here, and here, and initial this waiver acknowledging that Fogwarts is not responsible for any spontaneous combustions, loss of limbs, or accidental time travel." Ferry hesitated. "Accidental time travel?" "Oh, don't worry," the goblin said, waving a dismissive hand. "It usually only sends students back a few centuries at most." "Usually?" Before he could protest, Haggard picked him up like a sack of potatoes and tossed him inside. The carriage doors slammed shut, and the vehicle took off with the subtlety of a firework accident. This is far from over. Ferry's adventure continues. Click on the next part and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss anything.